They said his name like a dare. Carter Steele. The man built like a punishment and rumored to leave women wrecked. In Manhattan's elite circles, he wasn't just known. He was warned about. 6'6", with arms sculpted like they were forged. In a battlefield, pale skin drawn tight over thick muscle, ice blue eyes that didn't blink when challenged. He moved through the world like it owed him, and most people paid the debt by stepping out of his path. Women didn't just notice him, they remembered him, and not fondly. At least not after. Some walked into his bed laughing, most left limping. Physically, emotionally. One woman whispered over champagne at brunch, "He's not a man, he's a reckoning." Another said through trembling lips, "He didn't slow down, not once. He doesn't care if you break." And Carter never denied it. He wasn't tender. He didn't hold back. He wasn't trying to connect. He dominated. He didn't do second rounds. He didn't need to. No one ever lasted through the first. Tonight, he stood alone on the rooftop of a private lounge, city lights flickering behind him. A whiskey glass hung loose in his hand. He wasn't showing off, yet every woman watched him like he was gravity itself. One dropped her drink trying to get a second look. Another brushed by, breathing him in like his scent was the only air left. Carter didn't blink, didn't return the attention. Lust didn't impress him. Curiosity bored him. They all wanted a story to tell, until they realized they couldn't finish it. And then she walked in, Elise Montgomery. Her presence hit the room like a shift in weather. Calm, elegant, unshaken. Skin like soft porcelain with a hint of rose. Shoulder-length golden blonde waves falling over a strapless navy gown that gripped her curves like it was made for her alone. She wasn't trying to be seen. She didn't need to. She was presence, not performance. Every man turned. She didn't notice. She was scanning. Focused. Until her eyes landed on Carter. She didn't look away. He raised his glass slightly. Not as a greeting, more like a test. She passed it. Elise walked through the room slowly, eyes steady, heels tapping against marble like a countdown. She stopped in front of him. No fluttering lashes, no coy smile. "You're Carter Steele, aren't you?" His voice was deep, still. "Depends who's asking." She met his gaze. Someone who doesn't scare easily. A flicker of interest sparked. "You heard the stories? I've heard you break women. And yet here you are." She didn't blink. "Because I'm not built like them." He tilted his head. "And you think you can handle me?" "I don't think," she said. "I know." Carter studied her like she might be the one person in the room who wasn't lying to him. He stepped closer. "You trying to prove something?" "No," Elise replied. "I'm just not interested. In fairy tales where the beast wins by default." He let out a slow breath. "You know how this ends, right?" "I know how it starts," she said. "Let's see who's still standing after." For the first time in years, Carter Steele felt something twist in his chest, and it wasn't lust. It was anticipation. Carter didn't speak. He didn't have to. His hand lifted, not toward her, but out to the side, open, silent, an invitation. Elise looked down at it for just a second before taking it. Her fingers slid into his like she was accepting a challenge, not clinging, not flirting, claiming. And just like that, the noise of the lounge vanished behind them. In the private elevator, no words passed between them, but the energy was undeniable. Carter stood beside her like a shadow made of fire. Elise didn't step back. Her chin was up, her eyes forward, like she already knew the path she was on, and nothing about his size or stories could shake her. The elevator doors opened to the top floor, his penthouse. Black floors, glass walls, chrome edges softened by dim gold light, and the endless sprawl of New York sparkling outside like the world was holding its breath. He let her walk in first. She didn't hesitate. Her heels tapped softly across polished stone. She looked around only once, then turned to face him as the elevator doors closed behind them. "You're not going to ask me anything?" Carter said, voice smooth but low. Elise stepped closer, pulling a gold pin from her hair. Her curls fell, in slow motion over one shoulder. "Do I look like I came here to talk?" Her navy dress slid off one shoulder, revealing pale skin and a freckled collarbone. The kind of detail that could drive a man insane if he wasn't already disarmed. Carter's jaw flexed. He took one step forward, towering over her. But she didn't shift. Her eyes were locked on his, calculating, calm. He'd never seen that before. Not like this. No tremble, no rush of breath, no mask. "You don't want soft," he murmured. "Soft is for men afraid of losing control," Elise replied. His hand touched her waist, fingers testing, not for fear, but for reaction. She didn't recoil. She leaned in. Her perfume was light, fresh, like spring mornings, and something more dangerous underneath. "You really believe you can take all of me?" Her hand landed on his chest, right over the spot where even his breath faltered. "No," she whispered. "I know I can." Something snapped in him. He scooped her off the ground in one smooth motion, lifting her like she was made of air. Her legs wrapped around him without hesitation. Her lips met his like she'd been holding back for years. The kiss was heat and friction and challenge all rolled into one. Carter's back hit the bedroom door. He kicked it open, didn't break the kiss, didn't ask for permission. He didn't need to. She had already given it, by being there, by not blinking. He laid her on the bed like she belonged to no one but herself. His arms braced on either side of her. His eyes searched hers. "Tell me when it's too much," he said, voice cracking slightly. Elise grinned. "You first." For a split second he hesitated. Then her hand slipped under his shirt. Nails dragged slowly down his stomach, tracing every ridge of muscle like she was memorizing a map. He twitched. Not from pain. From surprise. He wasn't used to being touched. Like this. Worshipped? Yes. Owned? Never. She pulled him down, brushing her lips against his ear. "You won't forget me." And Carter Steele, for the first time in his life, didn't doubt it. Because this wasn't a one-night story forming. It was the beginning of something he couldn't control. The bedroom was drenched in golden lamplight. Soft shadows dancing across the stone-gray walls and the massive bed at its center. Carter didn't rush. He didn't have to. He hovered over Elise like a force of nature trying to decide whether to unleash or hold back. But Elise, she pulled the thread. "You don't need to pretend," she whispered, sliding her hand across his jaw. "I want all of you. Not the mask." Carter swallowed hard. No woman had ever said that. Most begged him to slow down, to be gentle, to stop. But she was asking for the opposite. She undressed herself, not with seduction, but with calm certainty. Her navy dress slid down her body, pooling. At her feet, revealing ivory skin kissed with pink, curves soft yet defined. She stood there in just her lace lingerie, a pale goddess under firelight, not trying to impress, simply existing. And it was devastating. Carter exhaled like he was holding in something dangerous. Maybe he was. He stepped forward, ran a finger along her collarbone, hooked his hand behind her neck. "You really want all of it?" he asked, voice gritty, her forehead pressed to his. "I came here for the storm. Don't hold it back now." He kissed her again, this time slower, deeper. His hands found her waist, her hips, the small of her back. He lifted her and laid her gently onto the bed, then peeled off his shirt in one swift motion. Elise's eyes flicked down, taking in every inch of muscle, every scar, every shadow carved into his body. Her hand traced his chest. "You've been using this to protect yourself," she murmured. "All this strength." Carter paused. That truth hit too close. But then Elise arched toward him, pulled him closer with one tug of her fingers, and kissed him with all the quiet heat of a woman who didn't need to conquer him. She wanted to. Meet him there. When he entered her, it was like colliding worlds. He expected the gasp, the retreat, the hesitation. But Elise met him with stillness. Her breath deepened, her nails gripped his back, and then she moved, right with him, matching his rhythm, pulling him deeper. There was no screaming, no chaos, just power, balance, a slow build of heat that wrapped them both in silence louder than sound. Carter gritted his teeth as her fingers curled behind his neck. "You feel that?" He groaned against her throat. "I want more," she whispered. He shuddered. Every other woman had buckled, pleaded, begged him to stop. But Elise? She didn't just take him, she took control. Their bodies moved in sync, the bed creaking beneath them, the room heavy with breath and tension. Carter lost track of time, lost track of himself. Her voice in his ear, her hands on his skin, her body rising to meet every wave, and when he finally reached the edge, trembling, breathless, a single tear pressed against his lashes, one he didn't expect, she noticed. She kissed it away without a word. "You're safe," she whispered, "right here." And for the first time in Carter Steele's life, he believed it. The room was silent, but it throbbed with aftershock. Carter lay still, his arm flung across the bed, chest rising and falling like he'd just come down from war. Muscles twitching, heart still pounding in uneven rhythm. Not from effort, he was used to physical extremes, but from something he hadn't felt before. She was still here. Elise sat at the edge of the bed, sipping water from a crystal glass like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just taken everything he gave and smiled through it. The city lights painted her silhouette gold. Her back was bare, legs curled beneath her, hair slightly messy in the most perfect way. She didn't ask him if he was okay. Didn't ask if it had been good. She knew. She'd seen it in the way he lost his rhythm, in the way he had gripped the sheets like he was trying to hang on to himself. Carter stared up at the ceiling. He'd been with dozens of women, some wild, some confident, some desperate to prove they could take him. But Elise didn't try. She didn't perform. She absorbed. She adapted. She matched. And when it was over, she didn't run to the bathroom or bury herself under covers. She stood in the aftermath like she'd walked through the fire and left footprints behind. He turned to her, voice low. "Why aren't you curled up like the rest of them, shaking, asking what just happened?" She didn't turn around. "Because I didn't come here to be impressed or broken. I came to see the man beneath the myth." Carter blinked. That hit harder than anything he'd felt all night. She walked back to the bed, not shy, not slow. She didn't crawl beside him like a lover trying to please. She sat upright, calm, and looked him dead in the eyes. "You thought I'd be like them. That I'd flinch. That I'd cry and call it power. But I didn't. You're not scared. Of what? Your strength? Your size? Carter, you've been giving women your body like it's a punishment. I came to take it like a promise." That one shook him. She leaned down, brushed her fingers across his shoulder, where her nails had scratched deep enough to leave marks, and whispered, "You've been fighting to be remembered. I came to be unforgettable." His throat tightened. Carter had spent years perfecting the myth of himself. The man too much to love. Too much to last. Women whispered his name like a warning, and that's how he liked it. But this woman, she didn't want the warning. She wanted the truth. He tried to smirk, tried to shrug it off. "So what now? You win?" Elise smiled, slow and knowing. This was never a game. This was a test of who could last. That word echoed in his chest. Last. No one had ever wanted to. They wanted the story, not the man. But Elise, she didn't survive. Him. She held him, and that changed everything. Carter Steele had never second-guessed himself. Not in a fight, not in business, not in bed. His instincts were sharp, his rules clear. One night, no strings, no repeats. But now, he was staring at his phone like it had grown teeth. Her name, Elise Montgomery, sat untouched in his contacts, taunting him. His thumb hovered above it for a full minute. He'd never saved a woman's number before. Why would he? They were never needed. One night. That was always the plan. But Elise had flipped that plan on its back and made it beg. He hadn't heard her voice since that night. She hadn't texted, she hadn't posted. She disappeared like a secret, but not from His mind, Carter had barely slept. His body ached in places that had never known exhaustion. He could still feel her lips on his throat, her voice in his ear, her legs locked around him like she was made for him. But it wasn't just the sex haunting him. It was the way she'd left. No hesitation, no neediness. She dressed in silence, pulled her hair back, and walked out like she hadn't just turned his world inside out. And that made him feel like he was the one left wanting. He never chased. But today, he called. 1 ring, 2, 3. He was about to hang up when her voice cut through, low and composed. "Didn't think I'd hear from you," she said. "You left quick," he replied. "You always expect them to stay?" "I don't expect anything." There was a pause, the kind that says more than words. She wasn't waiting for a line. She was weighing his truth. "So, why call me?" Carter's chest tightened. He didn't want to admit it, didn't want to say it out loud, but he couldn't lie to her. "I want to see you again," he said. "That all you want?" That question hit different. She wasn't flirting. She was exposing. Carter looked down at the floor, jaw locked. He wasn't ready to admit he wanted more than another night, that he wanted to talk, that he wanted to know why she hadn't run, like the others, that her calm had unsettled his chaos. So he said the only thing that felt safe. "I want more. And this time, I don't want to stop." There was a silence, then a soft inhale. "You sure?" she asked. "I've never been." "More." "Then pick me up tomorrow night," she said, "and don't be late." The line clicked off. No games, no giggles. She was coming back, and Carter, he was already counting down the hours. The next night, Carter waited at the curb outside her apartment. He was early. Elise stepped out a minute later. No dress this time. Black jeans, sleek boots, a fitted leather jacket over a soft white tee. Her hair was tied up in a loose bun, gold hoops catching the streetlights like they belonged there. She walked with the same quiet power that had silenced. A rooftop lounge. She opened the passenger door, slid in without a word, then glanced over. "You're quiet," she said. "I don't have much to say." "Or," she said calmly, "you've got too much to say and no idea how to start." Carter smirked, then looked at her. "How do you do that?" "Do what?" "See through me." She didn't answer right away. Then with a half smile, she said, "It's easy to see through glass." That line landed deep. The drive was silent after that, but not cold, not distant, just charged. The kind of silence that comes when two people know something big is about to happen and neither one wants to jinx it. This time he didn't take her to the penthouse. He took her to his private condo across town. Smaller, no skyline views, just warm oak floors, bookshelves, soft lamplight, and walls that had never seen another woman. It wasn't a place for seduction. It was a place for trust. Elise stepped inside and turned toward him as the door closed. "No games tonight," she said. "No games," he echoed. She stepped closer, reached up, grabbed the collar of his shirt, and pulled him down for a kiss. It wasn't hungry. It wasn't desperate. It was grounding. And that's when Carter felt it. This wasn't about sex anymore. This was something deeper. He lifted her again, gently, naturally, carrying her through the hallway to the bedroom like he was moving something sacred. He laid her down not to conquer her, but to honor her. His breath was heavy but not wild. She looked up at him with eyes steady and sure. "You're different tonight," she whispered. "So are you." "Good," she said, pulling him down until their foreheads touched. "Because I don't want the version of you the world warned me about. I want the one underneath." He kissed her, slow and reverent. Then she said 4 words that undid everything. He thought he knew about power. "Give me all of it." Carter closed his eyes and gave her everything. Carter took a turn off the main highway, steering them into a part of town that time had forgotten. The trees were taller here, the sidewalks cracked and patched, and the homes carried stories in every flake of peeling paint. Elise didn't ask where they were going. She could feel the shift in his mood, the quiet tightness in his jaw, the way he gripped the steering wheel just a little too hard. This wasn't just a drive. This was a return. He pulled up to a small red brick house with rusted gutters and a crooked mailbox. The lawn was overgrown, and the front steps had a visible dip where years of footsteps had worn them down. He didn't speak right away, just stared through the windshield like he was bracing for something old and sharp. "This is it," he finally said. "Where I learned to be tough, and why I didn't know how to stop." They stepped out into the heavy stillness of late afternoon. Elise followed him up the path. He unlocked the door with an old key that stuck a little, then pushed it open. Inside, the air smelled of dust and memory. The furniture was covered with sheets, untouched. The wallpaper had begun to peel at the corners. It wasn't a home. It was a monument to everything he never said out loud. Carter walked to the far wall and stopped in front of a single photograph still hanging. A boy, maybe 10, sat in the lap of a woman with soft eyes and a quiet smile. The boy didn't smile back. "My mom," he said. "She passed fast. Cancer. I was 13. 1 minute she was holding me on the porch. The next she was just gone." He didn't turn, just kept staring at the photo. "My dad didn't know what to do with me. He didn't yell, he didn't drink, he just went silent. I learned early that strength wasn't crying, it was disappearing into yourself." Elise stayed close, listening. She didn't fill the silence. She didn't offer cliches. "I started fighting because it was the only time I felt anything. And sex?" He finally turned, meeting her gaze. "It wasn't about pleasure. It was about control. The one place I got to be the one who left first. The one who didn't get abandoned." His voice lowered. "I made it rough because I didn't want anyone soft enough to stay." Elise stepped toward him slowly, deliberately. She placed her hand flat against his chest, over the heart he always tried to hide. "You weren't punishing them," she said softly. "You were trying to survive." That cracked something in him. He looked away, jaw clenched hard, a single tear forming in the corner of his eye. He didn't wipe it. He didn't hide it. She reached up and brushed it away with her thumb. "Don't scare easy, Carter," she said. "And I'm not running." He leaned down, pressed his forehead to hers. "You don't know what you're signing up for." "I know exactly what I'm signing up for," she whispered. "And I'm staying." He kissed her then, not hungry or dominant, but like he'd been waiting his whole life to be held. Later they sat together on the old couch beneath the photo. The sun slipped low outside, casting the room in amber. His arm rested over her shoulders, her hand clasped over his chest. "You brought me here," Elise said, her voice quiet but steady. "Not just to show me where you came from. You brought me here to see if I'd still stay after." Carter looked down at her. "And?" She smiled faintly. "Still here?" He nodded once, eyes heavy. "Good." She tightened her grip on his hand. "Because this time," she whispered, "I'm not letting go." It started with a headline. Carter Steele accused of abuse by anonymous former partner. The article dropped on a Monday morning, and by noon it was everywhere. Social media ran wild. Comment sections lit up like gasoline had been poured on an open flame. Someone, unnamed, unverified, claimed Carter used women, that he left them hurt, that he treated intimacy like violence. The story wasn't fact. It was venom disguised as concern. But it sounded close enough to the man he used to be that no one stopped to ask questions, and that was the problem. Carter sat on the edge of his leather couch, elbows on his knees, phone in his hand. It hadn't stopped buzzing. His lawyer wanted statements. His agent wanted silence. His PR manager begged him not to go online. He didn't care about the headlines. He only cared about Elise. Would she believe it? Would she think he was still that man? Would she see the name in bold and assume the worst? The door opened. He didn't. "Turn!" Her footsteps echoed soft but sharp across the hardwood floor. She walked in holding the printed article, folded once as if she didn't need to read it again, because she'd already memorized every word. "Have you seen it?" she asked. He nodded, still not looking at her. "Is it true?" His head lifted, slowly. "Depends which version of me they're talking about. She stepped closer. I'm not asking them. I'm asking you. Carter stood. He looked different now. Less invincible. Less guarded. Just real. There was a time I didn't ask questions. I didn't care if they cried. I wasn't violent, but I didn't check in. I didn't stop to think about how deep my damage cut. Other people. He exhaled. But I never forced anyone. I never crossed that line. Elise held his gaze. Didn't flinch. She stared at him like she was waiting. Not for the right words, but the honest ones. If you want to walk away, Carter said, I won't stop you. She handed him the paper. I read it. Twice. He looked down at it, then back at her. And I'm still here. Carter's chest rose, his hand tightening around the article. Because I don't care who you were, she said. I care who you are now, and I know who you're becoming. He blinked slowly, stunned. She stepped closer, her hand finding his. I saw the man behind the armor. I saw the guilt under the control. And I never once believed you were a monster. His jaw clenched. Why do you believe in me? Elise lifted her other hand, touched the side of his face. Because you let yourself break in front of me, and didn't run. She rested her forehead against his. You gave me your body, then your pain, then your truth. Now I'm giving you mine. Carter closed his eyes. She whispered, You were never too much. You were just waiting for someone strong enough to hold all of you. He dropped the article on the floor. Then he took her hand, and without saying another word, walked. Out the front door, into the daylight, into the noise, into the world, with her, no hiding. No fear, because for the first time in his life, he wasn't facing it alone. The auditorium was packed. Carter stood backstage, heart pounding harder than it ever had in a ring, a boardroom, or a bedroom. He'd spoken at conferences, posed for magazines, closed million-dollar deals without blinking. But this was different. This wasn't about image or reputation. This was about him and her. The event was a charity gala, a fundraiser for a community youth center Elise had helped launch, an idea born from a single conversation on a couch in his childhood home, a dream pulled from the ruins of his past. She had asked him to speak. At first he said no, but now he needed to. The lights dimmed. The host stepped up to the mic and introduced him. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Carter Steele, entrepreneur, mentor, and man on a journey. Applause echoed through the room. Carter stepped into the light. Elise sat in the front row, black satin dress, hair swept back, calm, composed. She didn't beam. She didn't pose. She looked at him like he already had everything she valued, and that was all he needed. He stood at the podium, gripped it once, then let go. I wasn't supposed to be here. The room fell into complete stillness. I wasn't supposed to make it past 17. I wasn't supposed to feel anything. I was just muscle and silence held together by control. He scanned the audience, but his eyes always came back to her. I built my life around being untouchable. I broke records, broke rules, broke women. Murmurs stirred in the crowd, but Elise didn't look away. I didn't let anyone in. I didn't care who left, because no one was meant to stay. A pause. Until her. The room held its breath. She didn't flinch. She didn't ask me to slow down or soften who I was. She stood in front of everything I'd been hiding and didn't blink. He stepped away from the podium, descending the steps one by one, and in front of the entire crowd, investors, donors, socialites, strangers. He walked to Elise. She stood as he reached her. He didn't kneel with a ring. He didn't give a speech rehearsed to impress. He opened himself. I love you, Elise Montgomery. Not because you survived me, but because you never treated me like something to survive. You saw me, you stayed, and I don't want to live another day wondering if you'll walk away. Gasps rang out. Flashes from phones sparked in the dark, but Elise only saw him. She stepped into his space, rested her forehead against his, and whispered, I'm not going anywhere. Then, with all the grace and certainty that had stopped Carter in his tracks the night they met, she kissed him. There was no script, no performance, Just raw, unfiltered truth in front of a world that finally saw who he really was. And for the first time in his life, Carter Steele wasn't too much. He was hers. A year later, Carter woke to the soft scent of vanilla and the distant sound of music drifting from the kitchen. Not a playlist curated for seduction, not a mood set for performance, just life. He reached out instinctively, hand brushing the empty side of the bed. But this time it didn't spark panic, because she hadn't left. She was there. He slipped out of bed, bare feet padding across warm hardwood floors in the soft morning light of their home. Not a penthouse, not a fortress, a house they built together, windows open, plants by the sill, laughter lines written in quiet mornings and Sunday dinners. In the kitchen, Elise stood in one of his old shirts, stirring pancake batter to the rhythm of soft R&B, hair tossed up in a messy knot. No makeup, no performance, just her. She glanced over her shoulder as he walked in, eyes still sleepy but steady. "Coffee's already brewing," she said. "You're welcome." He slid his arms around her waist from behind and kissed her neck. "I didn't say thank you." "You never have to." They stood like that for a while, her leaning back into him, his chin on her shoulder, the silence between them more intimate than words. Later, they sat on the porch, wrapped in a shared blanket, mugs in hand, legs tangled. Under a quiet spring breeze, Elise tilted her head. "You remember the first thing you said to me?" Carter smiled. "You think you can handle me?" She laughed softly. "And you remember what I said?" "I don't run." He looked at her now, no walls left between them. "You didn't." She reached for his hand. "You thought you were too much, but you were just waiting for someone strong enough to stay." He kissed her, not with hunger, not with ache, with peace. That night, when the lights were out and the house had gone quiet, Carter lay awake just a little longer. Elise slept beside him, her breath soft against his chest, one leg thrown across his. He stared at the ceiling, then pulled her closer, whispering into her hair. "You took all of me, and gave me more than I ever knew I had." And for the first time in his life, he was whole.